is 9:30 here at KCIM. That means KCIM Sports Rewind on the air with Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Casey Miners. I'm John Ryan. Of course, the Sports Rewind being brought to you by St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services. And lots of sports to talk about, not a lot of it high school. We didn't really have a ton going on with the Thanksgiving holiday break and all that. But
yeah, Carroll girls played last Tuesday and won. South Central Calhoun girls played last Tuesday and lost. And then we had, pretty much the rest of the week off with Thanksgiving. And then had boys basketball last night, just one game, and 4 area girls wrestling teams in action. So, not a ton of high school stuff to talk about for at least sports out on the court or the field already.
Yeah, we did have a lot of college sports, though, and I swear, I think I came by going into last night's game with the Vikings, and I don't even want to talk about that disaster of a game. Stupid Bears. I was almost sick of football.
Right.
I mean, there was football like every single night, college, NCAA.
42 days or something like that in a row or something,
It's just crazy how much there was. There were some crazy good games, some wild games. That Alabama finish, 4th down from the 31.
Oh, that was crazy. I saw something on that. Some guy put a $10,000 bet on Auburn to win. He cashed out when Auburn took the lead. It made like $50,000.
Wow.
How horrible of a defensive call, though, do you have to make to give up or execute to give up a 4th and goal from the 31 to lose the game?
On single coverage, too.
Yeah. What did I hear that Alabama calls that the grave digger? They practice it all the time. They say it's never worked in practice until they put it in the game, and it worked in the game. So crazy great catch by the receiver.
I mean, if you watch the throw, I told Will this. Me and Will were sitting in my room watching the end of the game, and I said, I don't like that they only sent 2 pass rushers. Because on a mobile quarterback like that, get him out of the pocket and get him scrambling around, because he was able to set his feet, sit all day, and make the perfect throw, and he did.
At that point, why don't you just put in every defensive back, every receiver you got, and just cover the receivers at that point? The linemen weren't rushing at all.
Right.
He had all day.
They were afraid, I think, that he was going to scramble, and I'm sitting here going, you got 8 guys in the end zone, and he's got to make it 31 yards. Somebody's going to get to him before he gets to the end zone. So
and if he crosses the line of scrimmage, he's committed to run.
And twice he's already crossed the line of scrimmage and still thrown the football and gotten flagged. So it's not like he hasn't done that. But just horrible defense for Auburn. And the bad thing is I was talking to a buddy of mine that lives over in Ames, and we were chatting about the game and stuff while it was on. And I'm like, wow, I mean, wouldn't this be awesome for all of the SEC haters out there that, Alabama loses, then knocks off Georgia next week, and you don't have one SEC team make the 4-team playoff, and then boom, just like that, they catch that. And I'm like, I spoke a little too early.
All right, so we got to talk about that Black Friday game, Nebraska,
we don't have
Iowa. Yeah, we do. Again, just a showcase of horrendous offense
on both sides.
On both sides, yeah. And some pretty good defense actually being played, but it came down to it. Final drive of the game. I fully expected, because I don't watch Nebraska. I don't watch them like you do. I don't watch them much at all.
Right.
I expected them to maybe have a chance to go down and get a field goal. And you went, nope, not a chance.
It's the way things play out for us. It's the last 4 games we lost all 4 of them. Had a chance to win on a final drive in all 4 of them and turn the football over, and then the other team would go down and get. We lose by field goal, overtime, touchdown, and a field goal. And those field goals are all like last-second kicks. It's because on all of them we turned the football over and gave the ball back over to the other team with a chance to score. So it's what Nebraska football has become.
Now, I want your thoughts on this, because I thought a turning point in the game was when Caleb Brown went out for an injury for Iowa. I thought that he was playing pretty good, and you guys had trouble covering him. But then he goes out, and then Iowa's offense just kind of goes downhill from there. That's kind of what I thought and what I saw.
It was a small hill.
Yeah. I thought you guys moved the football extremely well in the first half. I thought the defense for Nebraska made some adjustments, but certainly not having him out on the field certainly hurt you guys offensively. Some because you didn't have your go-to guy, to throw the football to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that last interception, I mean, how as an Iowa fan, you're like, do you just sit in disbelief at how they come up with those plays?
Well, no, I think it was bad offense, because you sit there and you look at it, and the defensive end dropped in coverage. I don't know if Chuba Purdy didn't expect it or what, but he threw it right to him.
He did.
It was. It's crazy.
Dan Pomeroy had a conversation with me last night when I went down to Coon Rapids for that game, with Audubon on the boys' side, and he said that if you watch it, and what he thinks is that not that the official and him were lined up or next to each other, but he said when you look at from the quarterback's view, it almost looks like they're one person. So he thinks that maybe he lost the defensive lineman with the official, because the official would have been closer to him. So it looked like just one person standing there, and he thought it was the official. So who knows? You'd have to ask Chubba. I thought he played well for us prior to that, minus the drop on the 3rd and 7 when he's running and would have had a first down and fumbles it away. But, turnovers killed us again, and, neither team deserved to win that game because, both offenses are bad. So I am going to say this. I saw this thing on Twitter today, and it burnt me a little bit. And if you're going to go on TV and you're going to make comments about a program and talk about, the loss and rip on us, that's fine. I get it. It's part of it. But do your homework. Mr. Andy Fales at WHO on Sound Off, talking about how injured Iowa was and how they were able to still beat us, missing all these guys. 3 starting offensive linemen, top 3 receivers, top 2 running backs on our 3rd-string quarterback. If you're going to talk about one team being injured, talk about both. Do your homework.
Yeah.
It pissed me off. I'm sorry. I'd like to have a conversation one-on-one with that piece that I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
All right. I agree.
So I did see before the game, it was a senior day. Blaze Gunnarsson, senior, and there was a conversation. Is he going to be back next year? I
haven't asked. I haven't. I want to let him get away from it for a while and then kind of maybe have that conversation. But he did walk on senior day. He has graduated. There's the potential that he could go. Hopefully he'll come back. But I want what Blaze wants. So if he wants to find somewhere else, I hope he does and has success. But if he wants to stay, I would love to have him stay. He's a Husker and will always be a Husker. And if he wants to just call it quits, he's graduated. If he wants to get his career started after college, then I'm all for him as well. So,
and a little after the game, I was a little shocked that Kirk Ferentz interviewed. He gets a little emotional after the game talking about that.
He does. I wonder if part of it has to do with he knows that he's ticking his time down with his son being on the coaching staff, because he was even emotional last week too, talking about it being the last home game that he gets to coach with his son on the sidelines and stuff like that. I think that he kind of knows the time's winding down, because what did me and you talk about? He needs like 5 or 6 more wins to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. So
down to 3 or 4 now, and stuff. So I think he comes back next year, because I don't think you step away as the head coach when you're a couple of wins shy of being eligible to be voted on for the Hall of Fame. So
that would take a lot to step away at that point, just when you're that close. But Iowa now in the Big Ten championship game against Michigan. Check out these numbers. I think they said the Michigan is favored by like 23.5 points.
Yep.
But the over/under is 35.
Yeah, it was like 20.
How is that even
28-7 that the bookies were predicting for Michigan, which I could see it. I think it's going to be worse. I think Iowa's lucky if they score, but
the last time Iowa was that big of underdogs to Michigan, they beat them.
Nice. I mean, how big were they? How big were the underdogs last year? I don't know. They got creamed.
Yeah, I don't think they were that big of underdogs last year. But I saw something the other day or whatever that the last time Iowa was this big of an underdog, it was the year they kicked that field goal
at Kinnick at night.
Yeah. So
but that's a 23-point favorite, and the over/under is still only 35. So I mean, they're not expecting Iowa to score.
I'm gonna take the over on that, just because I think Michigan puts up 35 themselves.
Somebody asked me last night, and I said that if both teams show up and play the way they're capable of, I think Michigan can win at like 49-3 or something of that nature. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to happen. There's a part of me that sits here and says Iowa's they're going to stun the world and they're going to find a way, because I mean, you're 10-2. You found ways to win a lot of games you probably shouldn't have won this year.
I don't think they haven't played anybody near close to what Michigan could do.
Penn State
was the closest. We lost 31-0. But granted, that was one of Penn State's biggest games. So
So go to the Iowa State game, Snowmageddon as they're calling it now, because that was a wild game to watch. I don't know if you guys caught any of that one.
I did a little bit. I know that the freshman running back, almost 272, I think, on the ground, almost 300 yards on the ground himself. That was nuts.
It was one of those crazy games, because I had a friend of mine. I was watching Nebraska volleyball, to be honest with you, at the time, but he was talking with me, and he's like, man, he goes, our defense is going to be worn out. We keep scoring like really quick all the time. And it's like time of possession doesn't mean anything. It's the final score at the end of the game. And they got enough big plays to be able to win it. But would they have like 3 or 4 really quick touchdowns? I think at one point they had 28 points and had the ball for like 13 minutes or something like that was all.
Yeah, they literally only had the ball for like a quarter.
Yeah.
And then Kansas State controlled it for the other 3 quarters. But still, Iowa State only ran 2 plays in the Kansas State end of the field.
Right.
A whole game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive plays were 102 for K-State, 35 for Iowa State.
Wow.
That's just insane. And Abu Sama had, 276 yards. It reminded me, I saw Troy Davis against UNLV when he went for 302.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just kind of like that. But that was perfect weather conditions at Jack Trice against a horrific UNLV team. It stunned me that they could do that against K-State.
Yeah. The other thing that stunned me came out today. K-State starting quarterback, who had a really nice season, is going into the portal.
3 of them are in the portal right now.
3 of them are in the portal.
Ouch.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and it started early for Iowa State. The ominous thing, I read this, Brent Bloom tweeted out. He said Iowa State had some problems with its catered meal at the hotel. So they actually had to go to a Walmart, get food, and cook it themselves for their team meal.
Really?
The day of the game.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's an ominous sign when you're going into a game.
And you hope nothing like was purposely done with the catered meal.
Yeah, you hope that's not the case. But
but
talk about, 2 coaches that two tremendous seasons going about it 2 very different ways, but they both got probably the best out of their teams that they possibly could.
Yeah.
Who would you choose for Coach of the Year? Between just those 2 guys.
I'm going to say Iowa State. I'm going to choose him for this reason. When they lost to Ohio, everybody had it written off. I you can say the same thing for Iowa with Penn State, but as with Texas being really the only powerhouse, I think, in the Big 12 this year. But I think the Big 12's balanced, so I think Campbell had to win games against better teams. I'm not picking on Iowa because Nebraska's in the same division, but I don't think Iowa goes 10-2 in any other division in college football this year because the schedule was awful, the division was awful. It's easier to win games when you're playing awful after awful after awful after awful, and that's not taken. You look what Kirk went through this year with his son being fired, an offense that's terrible. You tip your cap to him. To be able, the name of the game in football is to win football games, and that's what he was able to do.
Nobody wins a game uglier than Iowa.
Yeah, but I think a lot and people wrote Campbell off just with what they lost in the preseason to the gambling situation.
Yeah, lost 5 starters there.
And stuff, and they were really young, and they found a way to have a really nice season. Not as good of Iowa, of course, record-wise, but I think a tougher schedule.
I think they started 6 true freshmen against K-State. I mean, that's who they played all year long. So.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense because I think 2 running backs didn't make the trip down to Kansas State.
Norton and Sanders both are going to enter the portal.
Yeah, and I think at this point of the season, you're already bowl eligible. It doesn't matter if you win or lose against Kansas State. You're not making the Big 12 championship game. Why not get those freshmen playing time?
From what I understand, Campbell heard wind of both of them were kind of talking about entering the portal. They hadn't actually done it.
Right.
But he said, I want guys who are going to be here. Sorry, you're not making the trip.
Yeah, I think December the 4th, if memory serves me correct, is when the portal actually opens. So you got guys that are announcing but can't officially go into the portal till the 4th. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a gutsy move by a coach that kind of sends a message to the rest of the guys that if you don't want to be here, we're going to go with the guys that want to be here. So I tip my cap to him a little bit there. Not that I'm against the portal and guys moving. I mean, heck, we have coaches that move every year and and stuff. So not always a big fan of everything that happens in the portal and the way things are done because now it's it's always been this way, but now you know more about it. These guys that are going to the portal are just a lot of them are just going to see who's going to pay them the most, and that's where they're going to go to. Yeah.
I can see Kirk Ferentz a Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Probably.
Oh. Yeah, I can see
How can you give it to Harbaugh considering he hasn't coached 7 of their 12 games? He hasn't been the head coach.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could also give it to Northwestern's coach. I mean,
agreed.
After they're bowl eligible and after everything that happened there, some bad,
what, did they finish with 7? I know
6
they had
or 7. I'm not quite sure.
I think they had 6 going into Saturday, and I can't remember if they won Saturday or not. So.
Yeah, I think Kirk's Big Ten Coach of the Year just because they win the West and they're playing in a division championship. But I think you could probably find better people to give it to as well.
And they're 10-2 and could have been 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. So just anyway, that was interesting. A huge weekend for college football. Now we got to wait on the bowl games and all of that. So championship games coming up this weekend. So that's college football. College basketball, I don't know. Do we want to touch on that one? Is it just too early to talk college ball?
Freddie Hoiberg, 7-0. I'll take it. I'll take it. So, yeah.
Iowa's showing a little life.
I think it's going to be they show a little life, but I think the Big Ten's going to be so bad this year. Besides Purdue,
agreed.
I think Purdue should be favored in every game the rest of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go undefeated. I think they might have a couple tests coming up later before, I don't know quite their schedule, before Big Ten play starts, but Purdue is just, they're going to roll through the Big Ten.
Yeah, as long as they shoot it well. That's going to be the key. Last year they had some games where they didn't shoot well from the outside and stuff, but they should be really good. But I agree with you. Michigan State hasn't looked that good. Michigan's not very good. Wisconsin's way down from what they once were. And
one thing that always drives me insane about college basketball, the rankings. I hate the rankings for college basketball. After you make a run in the NCAA tournament, if you return a lot of guys, you're automatically ranked high the next year.
Yep.
Even if you go 18-11.
Right.
Does that justify you to be top 4 after going 18-11 last year and barely getting into the NCAA tournament and then making a run?
Right.
We're seeing that with Michigan State. We saw it with UCLA a couple years ago. They made a Final Four, then all of a sudden they're ranked 4.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they barely got into the NCAA tournament the next year as a 5 seed. So it's like,
with the portal, that's all kind of null and void. You got to wait to see what you get in the off season for all that. Iowa State got the wake up call as the ESPN tournament down by 15 to VCU. Luckily, came back to win that one, but got beaten by a good Virginia Tech team. I didn't realize they were that good. Good shooting team, and then Texas A&M. They had them beat too. I mean, they should have had 2 wins in that tournament, but Texas A&M came back minus a couple of players. Right. But they came back to beat Iowa State in the end.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take up 21 and to let that one slip away. So that one's got to sting a little bit. Absolutely. But I think Iowa State's going to be fine.
All right, so we're going to move on here. We're going to talk a little high school sports. We got a little basketball, wrestling. Special event coming up at the East Sac South Central Calhoun game. We're going to talk about that, too, coming up just a couple of moments away on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind. Our thanks to St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services. If you want some great personal training, I tell you what, that's some great stuff you're going to have there. 8-week workout program gets you in great shape in season, off season, or any time of year. So, trivia question of the day. I don't know if I've asked you this one or not. I just asked you guys, just kind of gave you a brief topic.
We won't remember the answers if you did.
We're talking NFL. This is just kind of general trivia about NFL. It doesn't have anything specific to do with this season. Only 2 teams in the NFL have a football in their logo.
Tampa Bay? No.
Tampa Bay is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, nailed that one right off the bat.
Well, I wouldn't know.
Well, that's an incorrect answer.
I know.
So think about that one. There's one more team out there that has a football in their logo. In their logo. So let's talk a little. First of all, we got basketball going on. It's going to start it's starting this week. Full out. You had some games last night, and tell us about what was going on.
Well, Coon Rapids Bayard hosted Audubon in a boys-only game last night. Again, for anybody that maybe hadn't heard, Audubon does not have girls basketball this year. They had 2 girls that were going to go out, so they combined with Exire and Kimballton, who is the host school for that this year. So there's no Audubon girls, so they played just a JV varsity boys doubleheader. Good game last night. I think both teams really showed some really good signs in it. Audubon came out. Mason Steckler was hitting threes early, and they jumped up 5-0, and then led 11-5, and Kuhn kind of chipped away at it, got it tied at 11 at the end of the first quarter, and then it bounced back and forth. We had 6 lead changes, 2 ties in the first half. Audubon was up 27-26 to start the third quarter. Each team scored a couple of buckets right away to start the third, and then Kuhn took a lead, and Cade Behrens kind of went on a run and got hot, hit 3 threes in the second half, and they built a lead up to about 8-10 points, and kind of held it there most of the rest of the game. Audubon got it down to 6 early in the fourth quarter, had a couple of possessions with a chance to cut into it, but were unable to do that. And Kuhn hit free throws down the stretch and pulls out a 58-46 victory to start the year 1-0. And, Cade Behrens finishes with 22, Cal Hayden with 20 for them. But, you look at what Caden Oswald and Colby Culbertson and Parker Hayes did for those guys. Oswald almost had a triple-double last night, played really well for them. I think for Audubon, Edward Miller's going to score more. He was scoreless in the first half, finished with 9 last night for the game. But, if Steckler and Brody Schultz, who shot it really well from the three-point line in the first half, can continue to shoot well. Austin Christensen showed some great athleticism and size down in the post, and they even threw a lob to him last night. It wasn't for a dunk, but he went up and laid it in and stuff. So I think with Christensen and Miller down in the post, if they can continue to shoot the three, I think they're going to be pretty salty as the year goes on.
I think rebounding, too, is going to be a big thing for him. Both Christensen and Edward Miller, 2 taller kids, lengthier kids. So I think Audubon's going to be a lot better than what people thought, just based off of, I wasn't at the game last night, but just looking at everything. I think Kuhn's going to be in trouble with how many guys they can have the handles that can bring the basketball up the court.
Yeah. Yeah, Kuhn struggled a little bit with the pressure from Audubon early and stuff, but then they settled in, and then they locked down in the second half, gave up just 18 points total in the second half, and that's a Corey Meyer coached defense. I thought there was an interesting comment from Darren Miller in the postgame, and he talked about, they've changed up what they want to do defensively this year, especially with help side, and he thought last night in the second half they kind of went back mentally to what they had been doing previously, and so it's going to be them figuring out and kind of getting used to the new system defensively. But I know Corey said to me on the way out last night, Audubon's going to win a lot of basketball games, and they're going to be really competitive in the WIC, and I think he's right with that. So I think we saw 2 pretty good ball clubs last night.
I was just going to ask you, what are the conference outlooks for those 2 teams? Western Iowa Conference for Audubon and Rolling Valley.
Well, you're always going to have Underwood and Trainer. They're always going to be good. I think Riverside was really good last year, too, and should be pretty solid. I think ICAM Manning will be decent this year. I think Audubon's going to win some games. I think the WIC's going to be tough, so it'll be a challenge. I think if you're Audubon, you want to finish somewhere middle of the pack if you can, and be right around that 500 marker, a little better in conference. And for Kuhn, I think their Exira is always really solid. You're going to have some Woodbine's going to be good. I think Arweva could surprise some people with what they have coming back this year. I think there's going to be some depth in that conference, but I think if you're Kuhn, if you can get some outside shooting, and Cade Behrens gave that to him last night, and you can get Cal down in the block kind of controlling things a little bit. And if you get from Caden Oswald what you got last night and Colby and those guys, I think they've got a chance to contend in that conference.
Yeah, I think Kuhn's going to be really good. They were a game away from regional final last year, and they returned a lot of kids. I think Caden Oswald really impressed last night. As you mentioned, almost a triple-double. I think 10, 7, and 6, something like that.
Something like 10, 8, and 6, I think.
Something like that he had. So, and only a freshman. I think I think they're going to have to rely on Cade and Cal to score a lot this year. But when you can get both of them to put up 20 points a night, it's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to see them later tonight, are we, at Coon Rapids Bay?
I will see them later tonight. I'm really excited for the boys' game. I think Kuhn might be a little bit better having a game under their belt now, but I think it's always tough to play those back-to-back games. I think our Weaver returns 4 starters from last year and kids off the bench. The girls' game I think is going to be competitive. I think that Kuhn, with what they returned, it sounds like Kuhn. Everybody's really excited about Kuhn. I know we are for the girls' side. They're ranked 13 coming into the season. Our Weava returns 1 starter, but a bunch of girls that came out the bench as well last year, so should be pretty good.
And Kuhn's got so much depth. You can throw Breeley Clayberg in there, you can throw Anna Hart in there, but I just got a sense, we thought it in volleyball this year, I just think Malia Clayberg, sophomore this year, is going to explode onto the scene. I just got this sense that you could see the confidence with her after her freshman year in volleyball this fall, where she's like, okay, I'm here, and stuff. And I just think she's going to explode on the scene potentially this year.
Another big game tonight, Kemper at Carroll. I
Yes.
got that. Is this the first game out for the Kemper girls?
It is. First game out for both Kemper teams and for Carroll. So Carroll boys are the only, or Carroll girls, the only ones that have played so far. So I think that'll benefit them. I was really impressed with them against Webster City. I know Webster City struggles, but I was impressed with just the fundamental knowledge of the game and the way they cut, the way they do things properly. I think they've got a chance to be good this year. That conference is so good, so the record may not always show how good the Carroll girls could be. For Kemper, it's going to be interesting. They're playing without Kate Mayhall. She was a tremendous part of what they were able to do the last couple of years, but their preseason rank coming in, I think there's a lot of high hopes. You got some really good talent on that team, and I think they've got the potential to be really good. So that's an intriguing matchup to me, because I think we're going to learn a lot about what Kemper could look like without Kate Mayhall, and I think we're going to see a little bit more of what Carroll High could be on the girls' side. And then on the boys' side, DJ Vanami is going to go for Kemper. That's certainly going to help them. They've got those great guards and can really stroke it. And for Carroll High, you've got a team that's replacing a lot. They're going to have Evan Hammer, who's fantastic. But, the one thing I've said with Coach Beeson is that they have guys that may not see a lot of varsity time, but they do so well at the JV level, and they're so well coached that those guys just step right in when it's their turn, and they execute very well.
I know talking with you and talking with Beeson that he's really high in the sophomore class. I think Jared Moore going to get a start tonight.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see how he plays, jumping from that freshman level to the varsity level. He played some varsity football this year, stepped in late the season at an outside linebacker. Another tall kid that he can throw, that Carroll can throw at people. I think Carroll's won boys 6-7 straight in this.
Yeah.
But I think Kemper's got the firepower to really to end that streak tonight. I don't know if Carroll it's going to see what happens, because I know that Will Schultes is a guy that I think a lot of people are high on, kind of like what Bryce Burlaw did last year. Didn't expect him to shoot as well. Talking with Will, my brother used to manage the team and knows a lot of the kids pretty well. Will Schultes can maybe be that shooter for him this year that I think the Carroll teams historically have really had. So
if we can get the boys' game to be as good as last year's was, that was a thriller. That'll certainly be fun. So.
Conference outlooks for the boys there. Once again, Hawkeye 10. We're talking Raccoon River Conference.
I think Kemper can contend in the Hawkeye 10. They're going to have to find something down in the post this year, especially if DJ's not able to finish the season with Evan Adams injured and not going this year. So they're going to have to find something in the post, but they'll defend and they'll shoot it well. And, Carroll High, I never count them out with Randy or even, the previous coaches they had. I think they're always going to contend in that conference. So that conference is always strong, but I think they'll certainly contend.
Yeah, we've got games here tonight. We've got games Thursday night, Friday night, and even Saturday afternoon. So we got a full basketball slate coming up for you. Now, this Friday night, South Central Calhoun is going to be at East Sac County. Nick Brinks is going to have the call there. But that's going to be a great rivalry matchup, but also a little something extra going on there. Yeah,
I want to tip my cap to Arcadia Meats. They're going to be giving away free sandwiches at the game. And again, that game will be on Kick 106.7. They're hoping to entice people to show up for the game and support the concession stand, which is going to be run by the junior class for after prom. So giving away free sandwiches. Arcadia Meats is at that doubleheader coming up again this Friday night. So thanks to Arcadia Meats for doing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great effort once again. So stop on by. That's before both the girls and the boys game.
Yes.
From what I understand there. So we've got to talk a little wrestling here. What's going on in the local scene on wrestling?
When you wrote last night, we had 4 teams in action, and I think all 4 of them had some pretty good success.
I think so too. I think ESAC had, if I'm correct, 2 girls placed first at the Manson Northwest Webster tournament. Evelyn Kramer, who came in, I think was ranked 7th coming into the week in her weight class. She picked up first place. So did Courtney King picked up first place.
Yep.
Manson Northwest Webster tournament.
Mia Heffley also finished in first for them, as did Megan Folsom.
Yeah. So it was in Carroll up in a quad at Denison Slushwig. They went 2-1, lost to Denison, but beat Audubon and Hinton. I think Chloe Jones, Avery Burke, and Julia Canny went 3-0 on the night, so it was good. I think Julia won all of hers by pin, and none of them really went to the 2-minute mark, so that was really good to see all of them finish there in that first period. So.
And Olivia Mack, who was one of our All Rewind wrestlers last year from ESAC, was a champion up at Manson last night, so they're champions.
Yeah, a lot of teams played really well. Audubon, I think, struggled a little bit, played bigger schools, so they probably didn't have quite as many. I think they only got 9 girls out right now, so they didn't have a lot of girls to fill the weight class, but Michelle Brooks I think won one of the matches by pin, if I remember correctly, last night.
So did Laura McCarville for them.
So because I think Audubon showed some light. I mean, they're gonna struggle a little bit in team duel wise, just because they don't have the same amount of wrestlers. But individually wise, I think they've got a couple talented girls.
Yeah, certainly taking some steps forward from last year. So
yeah, a lot of those results, of course, all of them available on the website and on the mobile app. And also this year, you guys are talking to all the area regional coaches, like wrestling coaches, everybody else, getting everybody a weekly update.
Yeah, kind of a thing. It was Casey's idea. I had talked to about sending out some emails. The thought process behind it was we may cover a team one week, but we talk to them through text messages and stuff after they play games, but we may not see that team again for 2 or 3 weeks just because we're covering so many schools. So it's just a way of like, okay, how can we keep in contact with the coaches every week and kind of see how things are going? And I thought maybe doing an email, and Casey's like, well, why don't we just call them and record an interview and put it out there? And I thought that was a great idea.
And I think it's easier, for people that, maybe like people in Audubon, we don't cover their games all the time. We only do so many a year. If they don't know the coach, how do they know how their team's doing if they don't check out our website? And, it gives them another easier way for them to hear personally from the coach on how the season's going and stuff like that. So
yeah. So once the season actually gets into swing, we haven't had a lot of games right now, but we're doing the interviews this week, and most of the interviews are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're posting them out to the website, so you can find them there. They'll also go to the CB Sports Network Facebook page and Twitter page as well. But, so we'll be kind of recapping how the last week went with them and then kind of looking ahead with what they've got coming up. So it'll be a 5 to 10 minute long interview. And like I talked with Derek Tickerson this morning from Glidden Ralston boys, they got 2 games coming up this week. We kind of peeked at both of those games and kind of got some of the thoughts on how he thought things went through the Thanksgiving break and stuff like that. So
all right, so catch up with all the coaches. You can do that. Again, download that mobile app. That is the best way to keep on top of everything. All the scores, the stats, the write-ups, and all the games, you name it. Easy to find by school, by sport. Just go to your app store and search CB Sports Network. All right, trivia time. Got to get out of here. Once again, we're looking for one more team that has a football in their logo. Okay, there was one that used to that doesn't anymore. The Patriots. Remember that? The Patriots had the Patriots snapping the football?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but they don't use that logo anymore.
They don't use that logo anymore.
So there's still one more out there. You got the Buccaneers.
I want to say the Giants, but I don't think I'm right. Yeah.
Nope, not the Giants. Very close, though. Very, very...
Jets?
There you go, the Jets.
I'm a Jets fan, and I didn't even know that.
So there you go.
I wouldn't have got it if he wouldn't have said very close.
We were running out of time, so I had to hurry you guys along on that one. So that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.